Let's do some chain stitch. Come up at the end of your line. You're going to go back down the same hole you came up. So you can see I put my knot over here because I knew if I had it right behind here, I would run into it with my needle and I would get mad. All right. Then you're going to leave a loop and come up a stitch length away on your line. That's it. I have some green thread I need to trim back here as I keep pulling it up. There we go. All right, let's keep going. So again, if you're more skilled than me, you can probably do this in the sewing method where you don't actually have this as 2 stabs, but it's what I need to do. I'm way more accurate when I do it this way. The chain stitch, you can use it for lettering, you can use it for chains. You can use it to fill. I'm going to demonstrate that on another day. So here I'm going to do like a sharp turn. We'll see how it goes. You can see one of my 6 strands is like looser than the other, which is why it looks like that. I don't know which strand. Sometimes you can kind of pull up here and find it because having that loose one isn't the look I'm going for. It's not working, so I will keep going. If you have that, it's up to you if you want to pull out your chain stitch and try again, depending on how noticeable it is. So now I can't even see it. I covered it with that stitch, so I'm glad I didn't go back for it. So this is obviously well, before I say that, here I'm going through these stitches. I'm just plowing through because I want these on top. This is obviously a pretty thick line that you create when you do chain stitch. If you like the look but you don't want it this thick, easy fix, you just change the number of strands you're using. I'm using all 6. And as a result, I kind of lost my shape. Perhaps 3 or even 2 would have been appropriate. And to finish, we just tack it down. Hi, let's fill with chain stitch. I'm using a full strand, and I feel like I'm like a mile away. Hopefully I can get my face in here. So, let's see how this goes. Using a full strand to save a little time. So it's going to be nice and chunky. It's going to be like a sea wearing a sweater. Like a knit sweater. Okay, just like that. I'm just doing my chain stitch. You can also do this with reverse chain stitch if you prefer that stitch. If you did my winter birds pattern, this will seem very familiar. You did so much chain stitch in that pattern. You can always tell what stitch I'm into based on what happens in my patterns. So my floss hopefully is going to behave. It's all kinked because it was on a bobbin. And it has like a weird twist in it. But so far so good. The twist is on me. That's just how I stitch. But when I have a hoop in my hand, I'm able to get the twists out. I have a little knot in the back. Excuse me for a moment. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. It's the kind of knot that needs... Sometimes these get stuck. Okay. I'll be right back. Alright. There's still a knot back there, but we're just gonna hopefully not regret this. just going with it. So you know when the floss gets twisty, sometimes it twists on itself and like creates its own little knot. And usually they're really easy to get out. You just kind of like, you pull them out. They just kind of unravel in your fingers. It's quite satisfying actually. I'm making these stitches way too big. Let me slow down and make them a little bit smaller here. So one thing here, I want to make sure I should have planned better. I'm gonna, like one stitch would be way too big, so I'm gonna have to do 2 small stitches here, which is totally fine. I don't know why I'm coming up there. I guess I needed to know where I was gonna pop up here. Okay, so here. And one thing you'll notice, like, I'm not coming up on the line because look how thick the chains are, right? So if I came up here, my chain stitch would go way over my guideline, which is fine, but you just want to be consistent. Like if you're always going over your guideline, then always go over your guideline, you know. If you're doing it like me, where you're trying to kind of compensate for that, then just be consistent so that your shape turns out how you want it to. Okay, so I'm gonna actually just end this chain here. It's a very closed C. And so here I'm trying to decide, do I want to just do another row? I think I'm gonna do, really all this is gonna be is like just 2 rows of chain stitch sitting next to each other. Because it's not the thickest shape and because I'm using such a thick stitch, I am keeping my stitch direction consistent. That is, I did not just turn around when I was at the bottom and go back, right? Because I want all my chains facing the same way. But I'll show you my cheat. So you can see there's going to be a little gap in there. And in theory, we would fill it with another row of chain. But I'll show you my cheat stitch for filling in the gaps. And again, these could have been smaller. They look all droopy at the top because I made them too big. I was asking them to curve too tight. So they look a little droopy. So don't do what I do. Make your stitches smaller. We'll do one. Actually, no, I'll do one that kind of comes here and... Oh, would that look weird? That'd probably look weird. So I'm going to come back here. Okay, So what I'm going to do to fill in the center is I'm going to do split stitches, because basically it'll look like I did split stitch with fewer, or chain stitch with fewer strands of floss. Like here I'm actually gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna split, and then I'm gonna do a chain because it's a little thicker here of a space to fill. Maybe I can fit in 2 chain stitches. I think one of the strands is not behaving. I hate that. I think some people use like a thread conditioner for that kind of thing. It's just one more thing I just don't have the like energy to bother. But if it's really bugging you, it's something you can definitely try. But for me, it's like, oh man, now I have to condition my threads, and I don't even put my threads on bobbins anymore, so I want the easiest. So I'm back to split stitch because this space has narrowed. Now, is it as nice as if I had done like perfect chain stitch throughout? No. But if you're filling a shape like in that winter birds pattern where it's like you have weird shapes, you know, you have like bird bodies and heads, and sometimes, you know, you can't fill them with an exact number of rows, or maybe you make your rows and you look back at your work and you can see that there's holes in between some of the rows, you know, you can just fill that stuff in, right? The police aren't going to come and get you, I promise. All right, that's filling with chain stitch. Have fun. Hello. Today is reverse chain. Sorry for the weird angle, but I'm at the very bottom of my hoop and I didn't want to do it upside down. All right, so reverse chain starts with the tacking stitch that you end with when you do regular chain. I am only using 3 strands today because when we did chain stitch, I used a full 6 and it was a little thick for the size and shape of my letter. So I went down to 3. We'll see how it works. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm coming up a stitch length away from my previous stitch or my anchor stitch. And I am just weaving under here. I'm not piercing the fabric. And I'm just going back down that same hole I came up. That's it. So one thing that can happen with reverse chain is that you can see it's looser on this side than this side. You might need to tease it, or you might just need to ignore it. It's up to you. I'm going to ignore it because that's actually going to get covered. My reverse chain and regular chain look a tiny bit different from each other because of the tension. It's a little different when I do it one way versus the other. And it's really up to the user, like which one you want to use. So ultimately, they look nearly identical because you're doing the same thing with the floss, and you're just doing it one direction or the other. I used to find this easier. Now I like doing regular chain more. But it switches. It depends on my mood. Okay. And why did I decide to go in this direction instead of this direction? I just picked a spot. If you want to noodle over it more, that's cool too. If you look at the shape I'm making, wherever you start, it's going to be a little bit narrower. Come on. I just have a twisty knot in the back. And it's gone. So see how it's like this line starts skinnier and gets a little thicker at the end. So just keep that in mind. And, you know, the smaller you make that initial anchor stitch, probably the better, so it's not so dramatic. Unless that's the look you're going for, of course. What on earth has happened? There we go. I cut myself a very long piece of thread because I did not want to run out while I was demonstrating, and I am clearly struggling with that much thread to manage. Okay, what has happened? I have a little bit of some weirdness here. So I'm pulling from the back. I actually don't see anything back here that's causing that. Let's see. I guess it's okay. That kind of helped. Pulling it out and resettling it. Yeah, no, it looks fine. So the smaller you make these stitches, the more accuracy you're going to have going around bends, curves, like with any linear stitch. This one's good for lettering. You can use it for vines in your florals. You can use it to fill. Oop. Twisty. A little twisty knot. You're going to get more of those when you have a ridiculously long strand of floss on your needle, like me today. I feel like this is looking way better than the chain stitch demonstration with 6 strands. 3 is looking way better. I'm just being plagued by these little knots. Oh my word. Come on, buddy, help me out. I'm gonna cut this little tail at the end. Sometimes the tails get like this, and I feel like they're more prone to getting knotted up with itself, so I just trimmed it. I don't know if that actually makes a difference, but it made me feel better. So one thing I'm doing, I have my other finger in the back here, see me? So I'm coming up, and then it helps me to push up my fabric when I'm trying to go under, kind of lifting that part of the fabric up. I don't know, for me it helps. I do that for the woven wheel too when I'm trying to weave under those little spokes. I feel like this stitch, like it's looking better with 3 strands, but I feel like it's easier with 6. It's easier to get under your previous chains. This is going to look nice. I'm glad I grabbed the variegated floss. Oops, my apologies. And the princess has arrived. Say what? What? Okay. What? Okay, you can't be on my lap though, honey. I know. Oh, yeah. I now have a cat on my lap. It's a little awkward. I know, honey. Oh my, come on. You guys tucked your stitches, right? Okay, yeah, go behind me. Good girl. She has like the tiniest, most high-pitched meow of any cat I've ever had. Sometimes she meows, she like opens her mouth to meow, and all you can hear is like her mouth opening. Like no actual meow comes out. It's adorable. So I'm just going right on top of these stitches. Of course, I can't see my guidelines. I'm just doing the best I can, like guessing this is where I made this loopy loop. If you don't like stitching on top like this, you could always do this part of the R first and then do the stalk of the R. Is that what it's called? I don't even know. You can always do that behind it, but just kind of fake it. Like here, I could just keep going and not overlap. But I'm going to overlap. I've committed. I feel like something wacky happened here, and I'm definitely going to blame the cat. If you don't have a cat to blame, that's okay too. Hello. We're doing checkered chain stitch or alternating chain stitch. Most important thing for this one, you need 2 needles. Each needle has a different color floss on it. So I'm using this kind of icru color, and I don't know what this is, like bright yellow with a little green in it. Anywho, let's do it. So you just, the most important thing here, besides having 2 needles, is just not getting tangled. It's a little tricky. All right, so I came up at the end of my line. I'm gonna go right back down, like I'm gonna do a chain stitch, leaving that loop. Then I'm gonna come up a stitch length away with my other needle. So right now, you can see I parked this needle way out of the way, the original needle. Oh, and something's already not right. Oh no, it is right. I don't know how stitches work. Okay, so here I was pulling on this, like, why isn't it, why isn't my loop tightening? Because I got to pull on the other floss. There we go. It's like science, man. Okay. I'm off to a really good start here. Okay. Here we go. Go down. I almost just went right back up with the same color. So it's a little bit of a exercise for your mind. Maybe don't do this first thing in the morning. So now I'm pulling with the other. Yeah, I can't even do it while talking. Oops. Let's see what happened here. Some kind of weirdness going on with my light colored floss here. There we go. Not sure exactly what that was, but it's gone. This one might be one of the ones that is nice to have a hoop stand for. So when I pull the loop, I'm holding on to this other color so that I don't pull the loop too far. Because if I let go of this and I pull my loop, it's just gonna slurp that other strand right up. You don't want it to do that. So I just love the look of this. It's so festive. And really, I guess you could use even more if you wanted to. Let's see, why not? If you wanted to add a third color or even more. But then you may as well just use variegated floss. Make it simpler. Oops. Nope. So if you're not paying attention, you can start collapsing in on yourself like I just did. Just sucked in. There we go. There we go. Who was that? Okay, that was that guy. So if I pull too much on the green, it's sucking in the white stitch. So I'm letting go of the green and pulling on the white to get it to come back out. It's a delicate dance. I'm using 3 strands. Oops, I almost came up with that one. Every time I try talking, I mess something up. This is now a silent video. I'm collapsing again. Okay. Clearly tension is very important with this stitch. And focus. I feel like the last time I did this, it wasn't nearly as hard. I'm going to blame the allergies. It's funny, it kind of like plays tricks on your brain. Because I can see this loop, and then when I pull this through and the loop doesn't tighten, like my brain tells my hand to keep tightening. But that is incorrect. I was trying to speed things up and I made my stitches too big. So I'm not following the curve as nicely as I would like to. I think part of it, one of my strands is quite a bit longer than the other because one was a scrap. So it's confusing my brain even more. The good news is I haven't gotten tangled once. I should probably knock on wood, huh? It's like patting your head and rubbing your tummy. I feel like by the time I'm done stitching this shape, I'll have it down. I'm going to just finish with a longer anchor stitch there. Whew, that was tough today. All right, that's it. Welcome to day one of bingo. Oh, who's excited? Clearly I am. So our first stitch is detached chain stitch, also known as a lazy daisy. I have just a full 6 strands on my needle here. This is, I actually don't know what size this is. Maybe a 5, 4? I don't know, the higher your needle number, so up to a 1, the larger the eye, the easier it is going to be to thread that much thread through your needle. You don't want it to be painful. Just get it on there. I just did a knot at the end of my floss here. I am not actually going to anchor with just a knot. With most of these stitches, I probably will, but with this one, because if I come up I'm going to be coming up at the center here, and you can see how I have so many stitches that are all going to congregate right here. If I have that knot hanging out right behind here, it's going to be all bad. I'm going to keep stabbing the knot. I'm going to get all tangled up. There's going to be swearing. So instead of that, I'm just going to come down like way up here randomly so you can see it. And I'm just going to start like this. And when I'm done, I'll be able to snip this off. And if I want, I can even weave that tail back through my stitches so I don't have a funky tail. All right, let's do this. So, pretty simple stitch. It's a chain stitch. So we're going to come up and go down in the same hole, holding the loop. And then I'm going to come up where I want to tack that loop down. And tension's important here. If I want a nice, loose, fluffy petal, I would stay there. I'm going to make it a little tighter. If I pull it really tight, it's going to be really skinny, and then it wouldn't cover my guidelines anymore. And I'm just going to come down on the top here. I am not going down the same hole. I'm going down very close to it. Just like that. Let's do it again. So I'm going to do every other one, and I'm not going exactly in the center because, like I said, I'm going to have so many stitches going right down in the same spot. I don't want to disturb any of my prior petals. That's probably overthinking it, but I'm quite good at that. These are nice little stitches to use for accents too, instead of having them all diverge in the middle. Like, did I do some? Yeah, I did. Well, I'll show you when I'm done. For my my center square, I did one coming off of my rose. They're just fun. You can use them as sleeves, you can use them as petals, you can use them as accents. All right, now it's going to get a little tricky. I have a pattern coming out in a month or two. Spring birds. You guys probably saw winter birds, which is like so much chain stitch. And sorry, but spring birds has some chain stitch too. It has a lot of flowers like this. Okay, did you see what just happened? And then I instinctively pulled my needle back out. Here I'm like piercing some floss. I don't really want to do that because I'm afraid it'll split my floss in that other petal. So I just came up a little bit to the side. I like to do this as two motions because I feel like I have more accuracy. Instead of a sewing method, well, you've been watching what I've been doing. So here, go, last little guy. So this part where I'm like being very precise about going back down and coming back up, it feels like I have more accuracy that way. That's it. This guy got a little split, but I'm just gonna, try not to make it worse. Don't look at it. All right, here we go. Detached chain stitch. Okay, next is heavy chain stitch. We'll see how this goes. As I look at it, I'm like, why did I pick that shape? Why would I make it so hard? All right, you're going to start with a tiny little stitch at the end. And then you're going to come up a stitch length away, basically you're going to do, this is the start of reverse chain stitch. You go through that little anchor stitch you made, and you're going to go down. Okay? Next, come up a stitch length away. Now, if you were doing regular reverse chain stitch, you would go through here, okay? You would go underneath. Come on, you would try. You would go, you would go here, okay? But that's not what we're doing. We haven't done that one yet. We will. We're going to do heavy chain stitch. So instead, you're actually going back up to the top, which makes it heavy. Because now you have 2 loops, okay? Going through that same hole. I'm only using 3 strands, and the reason was that I was afraid that this would just get too dang thick if I used 6 strands. Next, now I'm going to go back up. I'm not going through this loop that I just made. I'm going through the one I made before that, okay? So that keeps it, so every time we do this, we have like a doubling up of our chains. How are we gonna curve? What was I thinking? Okay, this will be some real-time troubleshooting. I honestly don't know what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna keep going along my guideline and see if it translates. Alternatively, we could have this be the last stitch and then go back down. So here it starts to get tricky, right? Like here I can see is the loop I just made, but I want to make sure I'm going through one behind, okay? So make sure you can see. Get your reading glasses out if you have them. Okay. See, this is going to be really awkward. I think we're going to have to fake it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come down here and start again. If we were doing like a regular detached, a regular reverse chain stitch, I think we could do that curve, but because we have to go up 2 loops, I guess maybe that's what we could do, is just do that, what I just said. Well, let me just finish this first. So remember, we have to go back all the way to the first one. Down. So it looks kind of like a braid. Like a thicker chain stitch. Okay. So I think I will just pretend and just do like a regular. Sorry, my cat's using the litter box in the background in here in the laundry room. What have I done? What have I done? I like twisted. Come back here. Like I said, you guys get to see some troubleshooting in progress. I guess that's okay. I just need this to stay up. I'm not really loving that, but we'll just keep going and now see. Here, I'll show you another trick. Okay, let me do this. You can see exactly what I'm doing, right, guys? I feel like I should refer you to my demonstration of heavy chain stitch on YouTube so you can see better what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna fix this wackiness by coming up here and adding a little anchor stitch right here, just really, really tiny, and no one will notice it's there. See? And it kind of defines what we're doing. All right, let's keep going. Kitties, what are you doing? I don't even know where they are. Okay, here we go again. I should have just done like a straight line. Saved us all some sanity. We'll have to do that tacking stitch here too to help this curve. Maybe this one too. Gosh. Well, maybe we just learned something today. Heavy chain stitch, not your friend on curves. I'm still going, I don't know why. I'm just hoping it'll look better if I keep going. Alright, and then I think I will just help this guy here. That is not officially what you're supposed to do, but at least it kind of pulls it up a little more. Okay, actually I feel like I want one more down here too, because I can see that black through. Right in there, it's bugging me. Alright, that's gonna be it. Does it kind of look like an H? Yeah, it does. It's not my favorite. That's alright, we learned something new. Never do that again.